what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show. The Big Daddy G Show.
Do you think money is tied to success?
In America it is. In America it is. But I think if,
In your opinion, is money tied to your success?
no, not at all. Not at all. My success, in my opinion, my success is my ability to call somebody that I have not seen in about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, a year and a half,
Year and a half.
at least,
Stick
at
with
least
that,
a year and a half, and ask him to come and join me for dinner, and they show up. You know, that respect. What I think is respect, I don't know what it is, but that ability to do that, I think speaks more than money, you know, because like I said, I have a bunch of people I can call and just say, hey, I need this, I need that. There's no questions asked. And vice versa. If they called me and said, hey, I need this and this and this, or I need this, or I need that, whatever, I'm there. And I think that's part of success.
So what is your advice to those out there that are struggling financially, emotionally, who don't think they can make it to their next step?
Okay, people that are struggling for what? What are they struggling towards, or what
Like
are they?
homeless people, people that are on welfare, people that are can't pay their bills, people that are in a hard time having a divorce. What's your advice for them to get out of their situation and improve their life so they can be successful in their life?
Okay. I was in Las Vegas, and I was on my way back to Austin. Okay. And I sat down, and I was waiting to board. And I sat down, and I'm sitting there, and this guy comes over, and he sits down next to me. And the guy's wearing a baseball cap, kind of low, down to here, and a pair of dark glasses. And he sits down and he pulls out this book, and he puts it like almost right next to his face. And he's sitting there, and I turn to him and I go, you know, they've invented this thing called that helps you read, you know. And he says, what? And he looks at me and said, what? And I said, they invented this new thing that helps you read. And he says, what are you talking about? I said, they're called glasses, okay? You don't have to have a book right next to your face, you know? So he starts laughing, and I recognize the laugh, but I can't place the laugh, but I recognize it, you know? And so I said, what do you do? And he says, this and that. I said, oh, okay. He says, what do you do? And I said, well, I work for my dad. He said, well, what do y'all do? I said, well, we loan money. He says, oh, okay. He says, you don't sound really excited about it. I said, man, you know, it pays the bills, you know. And he says, well, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? If you could do anything. And I said, well, I'd be in show business. I said, I love to entertain people. I love to be in front of a crowd. I love to, you know, make people laugh. He said, well, why don't you do that? I said, well, because I have a lot of responsibilities, you know. He said, well, what kind of responsibilities? I said, well, I have a wife, and I have kids, and I have, you know, property, and vehicles, and businesses. And he said, well, how much do you really want to be in show business? And I said, well, I really want to be in show business. I mean, ever since I was a kid, that's what I've always loved to do. And he said, well, this is what you need to do. He said, what you need to do is you need to stay focused. Okay? You need to focus on what it is you want to do. He said, and I said, well, okay, well, you know, I'm thinking like an American, and I said to him, I said, well, I'm staying focused on making money, you know. And he said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. He said, you got to stay focused on what it is you really want to do. Now, what do you really want to do? I said, I want to entertain. I love to be in front of people. He says, then this is what you have to do. You have to get rid of all your responsibilities. Okay? How many cars can you drive at a time? Well, first, how many cars do you own? I said 5. So how many can you drive at a time? 1. And that's all you need. How many homes do you own? I said, well, I own 7. He said, well, how many can you live in at a time? 1. And that's all you need to keep is 1. He said, what else is keeping you from being in show business? I said, well, you know, I mean, I have a wife, and get rid of her. He goes, get rid of her.
How many wives
And I
can
said,
you wait?
yeah.
If you're a Mormon, it's different.
Right. So he says, well, you know, are you happy in that situation? I said, no, I'm not. I said, I'm happy being married, but I'm not happy being married to her, you know. I mean, she's an awesome lady, you know, and I love her to this day, but that's not the person I want to be with, you know. So she said, well, this is what you need to do. You need to get rid of all these responsibilities that are just extras, you know, like extra baggage. And you need to focus on what it is you want to do, okay? So I said, okay. So I sat there and I said, you know, I don't know who you are or anything, but I recognize your laugh. And he says, you what? I said, well, I do 150 different voices and accents. And my deal is I can recognize voices before I recognize faces. Now, that sounds weird, but I can recognize your laugh. And I said, but I don't know who you are, but I can recognize it. Or it sounds familiar, you know. And he says, well, that's probably, you're probably right. You probably do recognize my laugh. And I said, well, what do you do for a living? He says, well, I'm in show business. I said, well, what do you do? And he said, and he pulled his glasses off, and he goes, I do comedy. And it was Steve Martin. And when and he put it back on, and when I realized who he was, I said, tell me more about this focus thing. Tell me more about that. What do you mean be focused on what you want? He said, don't go out and buy the new car. Don't go out and buy the new, TV. Don't go out and buy the new this or the new that or the new this. He said, stay focused on what it is you want to do. And if you do that, you'll be so good at it, okay? And I said, yeah, but what if there's no money in it? He said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about there not being any money in it, okay? He said, because if you do what it is that makes you happy, you're going to be so good at it that the money will chase you. You won't have to chase the almighty dollar. It will chase you. Because you know what? You're enjoying what you're doing. And the alarm doesn't have to go off. You're going to wake up before the alarm even has to go off. Because you can't wait to get there. So, if you're doing what you love to do, whether it be digging a ditch, changing hearts, somebody, a heart operation, a brain operation, whatever it is you do, if you love what you're doing, the almighty dollar will chase you. You won't have to chase it. And that might be part of the success, The final key is that if you do what you really love to do, the money will chase you. You won't have to chase it. Why God invented cabs.
You know what's gonna happen if I pick up that Dos Equis? I'm gonna think it's full,
Well, that's okay.
and then I'm gonna drink it.
Could be like a placebo.
What? We're gonna be in the middle of some sort of deep conversation. I'm gonna spit
know,
water
baby.
all over everybody.
I know, baby. But it's this show business. So you gotta pretend like it's like you're drinking.
Keeping up appearances, Zoe.
There we go.
Well, no, not appearances.
There you go.
This is show
The
business.
set's got to look good here.
It's not real.
This doesn't
We need to
look
get rid
good.
of that glass.
Yeah. So how do you get out of this mindset of where on a personal level, I've convinced myself that as an artist, I need to struggle because that's what I've heard. And also, as a person, I think I've been taught to struggle. See what I'm saying? Like, I was brought up and raised that go to college, get a job, and that's your life. And then when you're 60, you go on vacation.
That's sad.
And that's how I was
Yeah.
brought up. Now, the
That's
problem
sad.
that I'm encountering now is I know there's more to life.
Yeah.
And I don't want to live day to day. And I don't want money at all to be a problem because there's so much other things I need to do. Money is the least of my worries, but money has taken over my life to where every time I walk out the door, that is a major problem. And I don't want to see it as a problem. So how does one, like, spiritually or mentally change their thinking towards saying, okay, money's not a problem. I'm going to walk out of the door and have everything taken care of. What do people say to themselves? I think you're a spiritual person. That's why I
I'm a
asked you
very
this
spiritual
question.
person, yeah.
I'm going through a lot of spiritual training right now.
Yeah.
And
Well, I'm probably the most spiritual person you'll ever meet in your whole life, in this lifetime anyway. As far as, people put too much worth on the almighty dollar. And I understand what you're saying, that, you got to pay rent,
yeah,
and you got to pay your car payment, or you got to pay this, or you got to pay that. Now, that all falls along the same lines of you got to stay focused. Okay. Now, do you want to be successful in filming? Okay, which is what I think you want to do. Well, then you got to make some sacrifices. Okay, to do that, which means. Maybe you got to give up the nice car. Maybe you got to give up, living in this huge townhouse. Maybe you need to live, with some roommates. And basically it's called paying your dues. Okay, but paying your dues doesn't necessarily mean that you have to suffer. You're gonna do a little bit of suffering, but you just got to stay, like Steve said, you got to stay focused. Stop thinking about the big screen TV. Stop thinking about the new motorcycle. Stop thinking about this. Stop thinking about that. You got to stay focused on what it is that you really want to do. Okay.
just keep moving forward.
Just keep moving forward.
And
Now,
all of these issues,
now-
like the financial
let me-
issues.
now I'll ask you a question. If I had one wish that I could give you, and you could be anything in the world, anything, what would you be?
Screenwriter.
Okay. Then that's what you need to do. Okay. And you're going to write a lot of stuff. Okay. You're going to write a lot of stuff that people are going to go, But it's just like if you start digging a ditch. If you don't know what you're doing, you're going to dig a lousy ditch. But eventually, you'll know exactly how to dig a ditch. They'll say, okay, dig it 13 inches or 14 inches deep. You'll know exactly what to do. It's going to take practice, but you'll get there. Okay.
So, as a filmmaker, you've been able to raise money for your films.
Right.
And we're just getting started, and we want to try to avoid some of the, I guess, beginner mistakes. Now, what is the best way in approaching businesses and organizations to get financing? Or some of your approaches that have worked?
The number one key that has worked for me is networking. Okay. And one thing that my mother taught me, not my father, but my mother taught me, when I was a little boy, she told me, you're no better than anybody else, but nobody else is any better than you. Dinner, lunches with Michael Dell, he's got billions of dollars. He's no better than me. I don't care. Money doesn't impress me. What else you got? If you want to be successful at being a screenwriter, you got to write a lot of stuff. Okay, you got to get good. Okay, and you're not gonna. Odds are, like Good Will Hunting. Remember that movie, Good Will Hunting? They didn't write that. Ben Affleck and Matt Damon didn't write it. They had the idea. But then they hired ghostwriters, or the studio hired ghostwriters. The studio gave them $500,000 because they knew they had something. They gave them $500,000 for that script. And then they hired ghostwriters, which is a guy who comes behind and writes up stuff, or adds this, adds that, da 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 da. Okay. That's why the studio paid them so much money, because they knew they had something. Okay. And Matt Damon and Ben Affleck will tell you, we didn't write that. You know. In fact, they said one time in an interview, they said, we're the Milli Vanilli of screenwriting. Is what they said. And they got a damn Oscar for it, dude. Okay? They got an Oscar for
It's
it.
ironic. I don't think everybody
So-
knows that there was ghostwriters. Do they?
Yeah. No,
I
they
did not know
don't.
that till right
No, they
now.
don't. No, because I mean that'll kill the whole story. That'll kill the whole story. So if you want to get really good, you gotta get your stuff out there. You know, you gotta get it out there. You gotta film it, and then eventually, you will find the mistakes. You will find out when you're sitting in the audience, and you'll see what the audience reacts to. You'll find out what works and doesn't work. Okay.
So,
They know that they can talk to me and tell me whatever it is that they have to tell me, and I'm not going to judge them, you know. But I mean, I'm going to stand my ground if I feel that this is the way it should be, you know. And I had a guy that I told you all about. I met here earlier, and he offered to loan me money to make Zach, but I would lose creative control over it. I said, well, you know what? Even at 100% interest, I'd be willing to do it if I can keep creative control. And he said, well, I can't give you that. I said, well, then you're losing the whole message, because you're going to get some guy to come in here and rewrite this thing to make it make money. And that's not the idea of my film Zach. The idea of my film Zach is because this is what, you know, was told to me in a spiritual way. And I'm wording that way because there's somebody over there. But the way that it was told to me made so much sense, you know. And if I lose creative control, they're going to put in, you know, boat crashes and car chases and all this other stuff, and it has nothing to do with that, you know. And I just don't want to lose creative control of it. So.
what do you want to ask him?
I think the one thing I wanted to point out is, like, I just came back from a trip, and Big Daddy G is talking about he's spiritual. I mean, I feel I'm spiritual. I met Ace through a spiritual connection, and I felt like when I was down there, I was just being bombarded by people, like Waking Life. And I don't know if y'all seen that movie. Basically, the one main character was a student, and people just, it didn't matter if I was drunk, fucked up, or sober. I was just getting messages from people. I've got a message today from Big Daddy G about, you know, philosophy, about keeping focused, about keeping true to your dream, because you didn't do it for many years. I'm in the same boat. You know, I'm 39 years old. I mean, I have been doing a
You're
job.
still a baby.
You know,
39, you're still a
you
baby.
know, I've been doing a job I hate. You know, and I can't fucking do that job anymore, man. I mean,
You gotta quit that.
you know,
You gotta
I
stop
know I'm
that
not going to do that job very much longer. It's just a matter of how I'm going to make it happen. And
What's your ideal job?
I don't know. That's it. I got like 6 or 7, and I visited with shamans down in Guatemala, and they told me my sign is, well, you know, you should check all of that out. So that's kind of,
Well, I will
being
tell you this.
focused is hard for me because I have so many ideas going. Oh, you know, I want to get a production company going. I want to do this. I want to do that. I want to start a family. I want to travel. But you know, you got to kind of focus on one thing at the same time. You know, and it takes capital to do some of this shit.
I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this.
Yeah, well, we're,
When you were 13 years old, okay, you already knew what you wanted to do when you were 13, okay? So stop wasting time, okay? And that's what you've been doing this whole time. You've just been wasting time. You've been working at jobs you hate. You've been, you know, you've been struggling, doing this, doing that, being miserable, you know? Stop it. Do what it is that is going to make you happy. And like I said, even if you, like I told my kids, I said, dude, I don't care what you want to be, you know? If you want to be a ditch digger or you want to be a brain surgeon, I don't care. I just want that when you die, I want people to say, you know what? He was the best goddamn ditch digger there was in this world, you know? Nobody could dig a ditch like him. You know, that's what I want to hear. I don't give a shit what you want to do, you know? But you know what? If you wanted to be a ditch digger, or you want to be a brain surgeon, if that's really what you wanted to do, you'll be so good at it. You know, because that's what you really want to do. That's what you do. But you already knew. When you were 13, you already knew what you wanted to do. You already knew. And you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Do you know what I'm talking about? When you were 13, you knew what you wanted to do.
Sure, I wanted to play in the NFL.
Well, I'll tell you what a friend of mine told me. He was 89 years old.
Professional soccer player.
No, babe, listen. He was 89 years old. And you know what he told me? If I had told him that, you know what he would have said? He just said, well, you know what? You're still breathing. You know what that means?
He's still trying, right?
There's still hope.
Yeah.
Because you're still breathing.
No, I know what you're saying. You revise those, you know, there's certain things you're not going to become, you know.
Dude, there's nothing you
But
can't become.
at the same time, there's something always in your heart, you know. And I think the one thing keeps recurring in my dreams is music, and I've been like putting this barrier to it, you know.
Because people have been telling you you'll never make it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's too hard. There's so many people. There's da 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 da. It's not about that, dude. Like I told you, if you're good at whatever the fuck it is you want to do, excuse my language, but if you're good at whatever it is you want to do, the almighty dollar will chase you. You won't have to chase it. And you can sit back, you know? Do you know that Steven Spielberg, when he was 14, he snuck into a studio lot and got his own office there, and then got one of the executives to okay $10,000 to make his first film, okay? At 14,
That's wild.
at 14, okay? So whatever it is you want to do, that's what you got to do, you know? Do you know when he divorced his wife, and this is not a real good
At
high
15.
point. No, no.
Damn it!
No,
That wasn't it.
no.
Took a couple, 3 years to
About
write
3 years ago, about 3 years ago, he divorced his wife, okay?
Like Kate Capshaw or something
And
like that?
and because she married him from the very beginning, he had to give her 50% of whatever he had. Do you know what he gave her? Or what she earned or whatever? $886 million. That was her half of what they were worth. Okay? So it's about what is going to make you happy, you know? What's going to make you happy? You can sit there and walk out every morning going, how the hell am I going to pay the light bill? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? You know what, dude? Instead of doing that, you need to get in the business, you know? I told a guy today, I mean, it's a perfect example, dude. This guy comes up to me 2 days ago. He's 18 years old. And he says, you know, I've always wanted to get, you know, into show business, modeling or something. And he's a good-looking guy, you know? He's got a nice body, the whole bit, you know? Really nice eyes, nice hair, nice body. And I said, well, you know, dude, I think you could make some money at this, you know? I mean, I think you could, you know, be successful at it. And so I told him, I said, you know, what you ought to do is you need, first of all, you need to stop doing drugs, okay? Because that's killing your looks, okay? You need to get enough sleep, okay? And of course, I never told him I don't consider weed a drug, so I'll say, you know, you maybe slow down on the weed, you know, so you can get some shit done, you know? And then I told him today, I spoke to him today, and I said, you know what you ought to do? I said, you ought to come over with me and go meet these people that I'm going to go sit down and talk with. I said, and maybe, you know, you'll meet one of these people, and maybe they can help you. They might not be able to help you today, you know, but they might be helping you tomorrow, or next year, or next week, or next month, or something, you know. And you know what he said? He said, well, I'm over here sitting here, you know, getting stoned with some friends of mine, so I can't really leave. I'd feel bad if I left. And I said, well, I'll tell you what, dude. You know what I told him? I said, I'll tell you what, dude. I said, enjoy your career as being a waiter at Cheddar's. Okay? Enjoy your career. And he said, but gee, that's not what I'm talking about. But gee, and I said, no, dude, you don't get it. You know? I'm trying to give you an opportunity here, okay? I mean, and a lot of people will sit back and they go, well, but you know, you're going to the restaurant, you're going to sit there, and you're going to do this, you're going to do that. And I'm telling you, you know what? You know, maybe this guy isn't famous, And maybe this guy isn't famous. You know, maybe Ace and Neil aren't famous. But you know what, dude? They're doing what they love to do. Which means somebody's going to take notice of it eventually. You know? And it might be today, it might be next week, might be next month, next year, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10 years. But somebody's going to take notice, you know? But that's what you got to do. You got to get out there, you got to network, you got to meet people, you got to mingle, you got to do this, you got to do that, you know? You got to, you know? But if you want to be an electrician, you don't hang out with plumbers, you know? I don't know how else to put it, you know? You know?
I didn't want to come here today, man. I'm tired from my fucking trip, you know? But I said, you know what? I need to come here.
I'm going to tell you something. and this is the truth.
I don't know if we're going to work together or whatever, but I need to
And this
come.
is the truth. I canceled on Ace before, okay? And I did it because I wasn't feeling well, okay? And I canceled on it. But I had told myself, and I told him too, I said, you know what? I'm going to let you choose the time and date that we're going to meet. Because I backed out on you before, you know, and so I'm going to allow you to come meet. Whatever day you set, whatever time you set, I'll be there. And that's what I did, you know. Now before I felt like garbage, dude. I was really bad. And today, I don't know if you can tell. I can tell because I know my voice. I have like a cold or some shit. I don't know what the hell it is I have. I don't get sick, okay? And if I do get sick, I get sick like maybe once a year. But I normally don't get sick. But tonight, dude, I'm feeling sick, dude. I mean, I'm tired and I ache, and but I knew that I owed him this, you know. And not because I need him to further my career, because I don't. You know, I don't need him to further my career, but I think he's a really cool cat. You know, I think he's a cool guy. So that's why I'm here.
Hi ho, what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show, the Big Daddy G Show. Can we all just get up on the Big Daddy G Show? Yeah, man. Why clean your room when you can do some shrooms? The Big Daddy G Show. Hi ho, what do you know? The Big Daddy G Show, the Big Daddy G Show.